Hello, welcome to week 2 in computer ethics. So we have an exciting week this week. It's not going to be as crazy as last week. We did have a lot of stuff to do last week, and I think it gave you an opportunity to scan and see what some of the big issues are. But we're going to backtrack just a little bit because this week I want to give you an understanding of the philosophical basis of this whole question of ethics. Because we both know that ethics seems to be somewhat arbitrary, depending on who you are and what your culture is and what your experiences are. However, are there some things we can look at that will give us common ground to discuss the issues that are going to come up throughout the semester? I think there are. And so let me do a quick screen share and show you what we have available for this week. So when you log in this week, you'll see a new tile for week 2, but let's hold that thought for just a minute. I'm going to show you a couple of other things first. So first off, in the help desk or in the important information, one of the things people keep asking me are, what about grades? What about grades? What about grades? Okay, of course, I get it. Those are important. So if you go to important information and click on the grade book, it should actually display the spreadsheet. I'm not sure why it's not doing that. But otherwise, if not, just click on direct link. That's a better way to view this anyhow. And what it will do is bring up the spreadsheet ordered by your last 4 digits of your student ID number. And what I tend to do is if I see something but haven't graded it yet, I put in the word submitted. So you can see there's still a few things here I have to take care of. But the key thing to pay attention to is this last updated comment. If you submitted something after that date, it's probably not going to show here. So don't panic. I just haven't gotten to it yet. As a rule, I update grades about once a week. Sometimes if I have more time, I try to come in here and at least put the word submitted in here. But generally, if you can see it wherever it's supposed to be, whether that's on a Discord channel or something you upload to Moodle, if you can see it, I'll be able to see it. If you submitted something before that date and you don't see a grade, feel free to shoot me off a message on Discord, a private message, using your notes channel, preferably. And I'm more than happy to check on that. Or if you have any questions about a grade, I'm more than happy to check on that. I won't ever discuss your grades in public. That's private information. So anyhow, that's where your grades are. And this grade book is always updated first. I know one of the questions you have, so let me go to the getting started one, is how do I get that green check mark? Because on these assignments, you can't check it. And so this is not an automatic process. The gradebook's always updated first, and then when I get time, I come back to Moodle and I input the grades here on these assignments, and that's when you get the green check mark. So be a little careful because a green check mark doesn't necessarily mean you did it. That just means I posted a grade for it. So if you didn't do it, you could still have a 0 and it'll show it checked off. So, don't put too much stock in the green check mark on the assignments. On a lot of the things, you can check them off yourself. And so those are resources that you've looked at. All right. So let me show you the next thing in the help desk. I've added a couple of useful things here. Hopefully they're useful things here. All right. We don't really have a textbook, but I found this for my other class, and you have other classes probably, so you might find this really useful. This has just got some really good strategies, because who has time to read every single word of every single thing, right? But you want to get the main ideas. You want to be able to pull out what it means and what's important and figure out how to use it. So this link actually has a couple of videos that are really good, and it outlines nicely some strategies that you can use. I like how they presented it. This other resource that is new, so all last week we did Zoom calls, and I asked everybody to submit questions, and I answered the questions. I took all the questions you guys gave me, and I put them into this big FAQ. And there's a couple of different categories, so I categorized it in a few ways. Let me open the screen a little bit bigger. So I categorized it in a few ways, about the class, some general things like how the class works and different questions about using Zoom. There's some very good tips about how to use Zoom in here. There is a section about the technology, like what's the different tech we're going to use and how are we going to use it. Probably one of the most useful sections you'll find is what if I can't connect to Moodle or Zoom or Discord or Twitter or email? And I give you some links to check status updates. And what I did is I went through and I gave you the protocol that I follow when I can't connect to something. And so hopefully you'll find that helpful. It's good to kind of go through these things before you freak out and panic. That's always kind of the last resort. And I'd rather go for a walk than freak out and panic. So that's actually kind of the last thing on the list. So there's a text section. There's a whole bunch of questions about teaching, about my experience with teaching. So I answered some of those. And then there was a lot of fun, random stuff in here. All right. So feel free to read through this. Pets were a favorite. There was a lot of people that asked questions about my pets. So I should put a picture up there, but some people asked those questions. Favorite food, pizza topping, it was all kinds of random weird stuff. Anyhow, so that's available for you there under this frequently asked question tile. A couple of other things you might find useful. This Moodle guide for students. It's a video and I think it's only like 6 minutes long, and it's done for another college. So the login piece of it at the beginning is a little bit different than what we do. But it talks about how to post to a discussion forum, just how to do a bunch of different things in a short period of time. So it's kind of the quick start guide. And then, I just talked to you about the assignment completion check marks, but I made a short 2-minute tech talk. That's the abbreviation for that, about what those are all about. And I think that's it for right now. I think that's all the new stuff in the help desk. If you have a tech topic that you're trying to figure out what it's all about, feel free to message me and I can make a quick video and I'll stick it up there, because if you have the question, for sure other people do. So let's take a look at this week. All right. This week, we're going to dig into a historical perspective of where does ethical theory come from and how can we use it to move forward in our discussions. And so we're not a philosophy class, but anytime you talk about ethics, you actually have to talk about philosophy because that's where it's rooted. So of course, the first thing to do is start off with what are we doing this week? If you're watching this video, that's what this is. And with the week 2 checklist. And I have the checklist open in another window here. And just to remind you, this goes and gives context to all those other links, okay? So if you just go to Moodle and you just look at the boxes, you're not going to know how they all tie together. You got to read the checklist. And I did get a few questions last week saying, I don't understand, how does this all work? And when I looked at the log files in Moodle, because I can do that, it actually showed that those people did not actually watch the video and read the checklist, because it shows when those resources were accessed. So don't ask the question until you look at these two things first. All right. Now, in the think section, this first resource has to do with an overall introduction to ethics. Okay. And it's got a good video with it. Shouldn't take you too long to go through that. But then I want to do a what if probably every week. So there's a very famous ethical problem called the trolley dilemma. And so there's a video that discusses it, a TED Ed video that discusses it. And then this page actually gives some other parameters. So, what if the trolley had to choose between, anyhow, I'm not going to go into all those because there's a whole bunch of them. But I want you to think through, like, how would you solve this problem? How would you answer this question? What's the ethical thing to do? And how do the what ifs change that? Because that line of thinking, that way of thinking is going to impact how we talk about all of the topics we're going to hit throughout the semester. In the Learn section, there's this great series or this great YouTube channel called Crash Course, and they have lots of different things. So I pulled out the Crash Course Philosophy videos. It'll take you about 30 minutes to watch all 3 of them. They're each about 10 minutes long. I watched them all 1.5 speed, so it went a little faster. You don't want to watch it so fast that you don't get what they're talking about, but you may want to speed it up a little bit. Conversely, you can also slow them down, although that always sounds a little weird. So this first video talks about what is philosophy, and it looks at the roots of like Greek philosophy. Plato and Socrates goes back there. And then part 2 and 3 talk about different ways to argue. Now, this is not arguing in the way that you might think of arguing. It's not having a fight on social media about which political candidate is the best, or it's not, arguing with your friend about, chocolate ice cream is better than vanilla ice cream. most people don't argue well. And in philosophy and in ethics, an argument is just presenting a side, of your side of the issue. And there's ways to do that, strategies to do that, that elevate the conversation in such a way that you can come out of it with a shared understanding. And that's what we're looking for. We're not looking to win necessarily. We're looking for a shared understanding. So your homework for this week, compared to last week, it's going to feel really easy. But after taking in all that information, don't do this until you've looked at all that other stuff and thought about it. But what I want you to do is post an insight to our Discord category. There's now a channel there, number 2 insights. And I want you to pick something that made you go, huh, or wow, I never thought about it that way. Or kind of thought about it that way, but this added some more information, like something that just stuck out at you about what you learned this week, something that deepened your knowledge, okay? And this is actually going to set the stage for what we're going to do next week. But to get credit for this assignment on the Discord channel, you have to say what your takeaway is. Okay, I should have put that. So describe the takeaway. So what is it? And include why you picked this, why it stood out to you, why you find it interesting, how it impacted all, what, like, describe why you picked this, what the reason is. And then find a resource that's not, that I didn't give you. You have to find a different resource about this topic that you can share and give some context about how it's connected. Like why should we bother checking this out? Why is it interesting, okay? And so let me flip over, let me see if I can flip over to our Discord channel and I'll just show you where that lives, where that's at. But I need to, there we go. I need to open it first so I can flip over to it. So in our channel, our CIS050 channel, you're going to see 2 insights. And I kind of copied, you can't really do any formatting in the category description, you know, so that's how it looks. So this is where you're going to post it, okay, in the week 2 insights channel. So this is going to be a really interesting week because I'm very curious. This is going to help you think about how you think, which is the key element. They call that metacognition, if you want an actual word for that, thinking about how you think. And that's a key element in starting this discussion of ethics. And as you're going through this stuff, try to make some connections. Last week, I had you look up what are some ethical issues in technology. And I've actually compiled a list of that we'll probably pull out next week. It's interesting. Which one do you think is the most popular topic that the most people discussed from last week? Any ideas? Because there was a whole bunch. It was privacy and security. Big surprise there, right? And so, but there are lots of other good topics too. So we're gonna dive into those as the semester goes along. However, you need to start thinking about how you think about these things, because we want to steer away from this idea of arguing as a means of winning. Like I said, we want to look towards argument as a tool of understanding. Because just because you understand a side of something doesn't mean you agree with it, but it gives you some common ground for having conversations. And that's where all the fun begins. So I'm looking forward to this week. Take some time, go through all the resources. It's mostly videos. There's a couple of articles, but they have embedded videos, so it's a lot of video watching. One of the things you guys indicated was that you liked videos. When you filled out the survey, that was helpful. So if you like reading like I do, feel free to turn on the closed caption button. Look at the bottom of the video, look for a little CC button, and if that's available, I almost always read it with captions on because it reinforces what I'm hearing. So that's an option. Anyhow, you all have a good week, and I'm looking forward to, oh, the last thing, Zoom times. Sorry, there's a Zoom time setup. So make sure you sign up for those next week and let me know if there's any problems. Anyhow, that's it. I will see you guys next week.